My name's Andy the Britt. I'm originally from England. I've been left home at 17, left England at 21, been traveling around the world for most of my life. I was living in Georgia, ended up living in Georgia here in the United States for about 20 years now. And about 5 years ago, I decided I wanted to go traveling again when I got to about 50, which was last year. And I was sick, really sick for a long time. And I couldn't get on the road last year, so I decided to leave this year. Originally, I was headed to Vancouver to get on either the Alcan to go up to Prudhoe Bay or on the Pacific Coast Highway to go down through Central America to South America. And so I needed to know how to get to Vancouver. So I went to the library one day at the UGA in Athens, University of Georgia, and I opened out the big atlas, the big 2 pages of the United States, and there was this blue line down the middle called the Mississippi, and there was this blue line off to the northwest called the Missouri. And as soon as I saw that Missouri, I thought of Lewis and Clark, and I Googled on my phone, Lewis and Clark Bike Trail. And there it was, right across the country, 3,000 miles from Wood River, Cap du Bois, in St. Louis, all the way up through Missouri, through Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. So, April 1st of this year, I got some contractor's plastic out of a dumpster and some rope, and I moved into the woods for a month to get ready to go on the road. I figured if I couldn't live in the woods in my own hometown for a month, I probably shouldn't be riding across the country. So stayed in the woods for 4 weeks, and then May the 1st I started riding. I got as far as Atlanta, and a friend of mine I was visiting to say goodbye to says, "Hey, we're going to North Carolina to go rock climbing. You want to come with us for a day or two?" So I was going in the wrong direction, into the wrong state, rock climbing. But he dropped me back off at Atlanta, and then rode through Alabama, Mississippi, crossed the Mississippi River into West Helena, Arkansas, and stayed on the Arkansas side up the Mississippi, crossed into Tennessee at Memphis, went up through Tennessee, up through Kentucky, crossed into Illinois at Cairo, up through Illinois to Camp du Bois, which is a fort on the Wood River that Lewis and Clark built to spend the winter, their first winter. And then they went across Missouri. I rode the Katy Trail across Missouri. It was 101 degrees as I pulled into Kansas City. Turned north at Kansas, up into Nebraska, up through Nebraska to Omaha, then crossed into Iowa. Still staying right on the river, staying in the bottoms. Up through Iowa to Sioux City. Spent a few days in Sioux City. And then I decided that then I went to Vermilion. And I ended up spending like 10 days in Vermilion, South Dakota, which is unheard of for me, because normally it was like 2 days or 3 days. Here I was 10 days. And then I heard about the Sturgis motorbike rally. So I rode my bicycle all the way across South Dakota, through Pine Ridge, through Rosebud, through Wanbley, through the Badlands, all the way to the Black Hills, and to the Sturgis motorbike rally on a bicycle. Then I rode back on 44 all the way through South Dakota with sometimes 70 miles between a spot on the map where you could get some water, to Pierre, and a couple of days in Pierre it was 102 degrees, and then from Pierre I came up like 1804, 1806 to Mobridge, crossed the river at Mobridge into the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. And even if there hadn't been a pipeline, and even if there hadn't been a protest, I would still have come up that road right there, because I'm following that river, the Missouri, which is just on the horizon. And Lewis and Clark spent their first winter in Camp Dubois at St. Louis, and their second winter at Bismarck with the Mandan. So I'm probably going to spend my winter here at Standing Rock with the Sioux. I had never heard. It's quite ironic. Apparently the first camp here was April 1st, and April 1st was the first day I moved into the woods in Georgia. But I knew nothing about the protest. I knew nothing about DAPL. I knew nothing about the Standing Rock Sioux tribe even. But as I started coming up the river and meeting more and more Native Americans, Indians, and becoming friends on Facebook, I saw them posting stuff about DAPL, oil not water, water not oil, the protest, and I started sharing their posts and getting more interested in what was going on up here. And I didn't know it was going to be right on my route, although it makes perfect sense for it to be right on my route, because they're protesting the pipeline crossing the Missouri, and I'm on the road that's closest to the Missouri, but I didn't realize it was right on my journey until I actually got here. I arrived here 18 days ago. It was the Saturday that the Saturday before Labor Day. It was the day when they they bulldozed the sacred sites, and they had the altercation with the dogs and the pepper spray. I was actually pulling up as all of that was going on. I can still remember the helicopter circling overhead, taking the photographs. And as soon as I got here, I already knew I was going to volunteer in the kitchen. I pulled right up to the kitchen, and I started washing dishes from day one. And I've spent about 18 days in the kitchen, kind of setting up a dishwashing line to where we can go through enough dishes to feed sometimes 5,000 people a day. You know, some weekends, last weekend, the weekend of the tribunal in Washington, a lot of people showed up to be here in case it didn't go in our favor, to be ready to do whatever it takes to stop the machinery. Since that tribunal and 20 miles no construction either side of the river, it seems to have thinned out a lot. I don't know if that's because there's nothing happening, or if that's because winter's coming and people are leaving anyway, but that remains to be seen. Some of the other things I've done whilst I've been here is I've been to the front line. I've spent the night out there. I've been to actions where we we raced in the convoy of cars early in the morning to where they specifically the day after Labor Day, the Tuesday, their first day back to work after the Mace incident. We went out there in a convoy, and as soon as we got there, the workers just left. They weren't ready. They weren't going to have any kind of confrontation that day, not after the Saturday. Since that day, I haven't been involved in any actions because there haven't been any actions. I don't know what's going on that front. I heard a rumor that there is some construction work going on within that 20 mile no work zone, but I don't know what kind of actions are happening there. Other duties I've done, helping people set up tents, helping people break down tents, helping chop firewood, helping distribute firewood, going around the guard shacks at night, distributing coffee and food, and just morale boosting. Swimming in the river, meditation, yoga, recycling. It takes a lot to run a camp with 5,000 people, and unfortunately some people take it for granted. You know, they stay up late sitting around the fire singing Kumbaya, and then they get up late and expect their breakfast to be made, but they don't want to help make the breakfast or clean the dishes or tidy up afterwards or pick up the trash. They just kind of want to, you know, enjoy the camp without actually putting in any effort.
Do you want to go into what you feel is your common connection here? Like what makes you passionate about this?
I'm just here for a free meal, man. I'm riding across the country. You know, come on, seriously. I've been on this river since West Helena, Arkansas, well over 2,000 miles. I've been bathing in it, drinking in it, riding alongside it, sleeping alongside it. It's my river too. It's my water too. And I do believe if Lewis and Clark were still alive today, they'd be here as well. You know? It's the right thing to do. You know, we have more than enough oil, more than enough resources. We don't need to be taking any more out of the ground. We need to be using what we have and not wasting what we have, and looking for alternative energy sources, solar, wind, wave,